Nebraska football is losing one of the best senior classes that they've had in over a decade. And with that, there are a plethora of Husker players who need to step up in their absence. So in today's video, I'm going to go over the 6 Nebraska players who have the biggest shoes to fill going into 2025. I'm going to go over who these guys are, what they've done in the past, their outlook on next season, and why it is so important that they find success, because without it, Nebraska will not be able to win. So really quick, we have a lot to get into discussing next season and Nebraska's players. Hit that like button. If you're having a good day, hit that like button. I know I am. And also, if you're a diehard Nebraska fan, you're unsubscribed, what are you waiting for? Please hit that subscribe button for daily Husker football content, practice updates, recruiting updates, off-season content, so much more. Join this family. Please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it, going over the 6 Nebraska players who have the biggest shoes to fill going into next season. There are a bunch of key seniors who are no longer with the Huskers. There are a lot of holes on this roster because of it. Let's get things started with the number 1 guy. This is Cameron Lenhardt, third-year defensive lineman for the Big Red. Now, Cameron Lenhardt is a guy who a lot of Nebraska fans don't discuss during the offseason because, he's not really a flashy player, doesn't have a bunch of stats to his name, but people forget that he was a starter as a true freshman. In his second year, he was the only player on the defensive line who was an underclassman to get a black shirt, and he had that black shirt the entire year. Cameron Lenhardt is a cornerstone, not only of this defense, but of this team. Okay, but this year in particular, he needs to step it up. He needs to take it to the next level. Because when you look at his stats last year, they were underwhelming. He probably wasn't on the field as much as he should have been. Okay, and in this case, he's replacing both Jamari Butler and Ty Robinson on this line. Cameron Lenhardt is going to start consistently for the first time in his career. He needs to take it to the next level. We're talking about a guy who probably needs to get, upwards of 5-6 sacks next year to make his presence in the running game, to be a leader on this defensive line, with a room that really lacks leadership right now. You lose all of your leaders from last year. Okay. So I know we don't discuss Cameron Lenhardt a lot because he's not the most flashy player. He's not the most exciting guy, but he's a player who's constantly productive. The coaching staff has a lot of good things to say about. He's in the mix to be a single-digit player. Okay, we're not going to replace Ty Robinson. It's very hard to do that with how productive he was. But you need somebody to get a little bit close. And if there's anybody who can replace his production, I think it's going to be Cameron Lenhardt. It has to be. He needs to step it up this year, really make his impact felt, and be a leader on this defensive line more than anything for these young guys. But he's going to be mixed to be a single-digit player. Cameron Lenhardt, again, I'm looking for about 5-6 sacks from him, but more importantly, what he's better at is getting to the running back in the running game, setting an edge. I need him to do that as well at a pretty elite level, take that step forward, because really he wasn't good in the pass rush last year, and that's why he was on the field probably as much as we thought he was going to be, and they didn't put him on throughout the course of the year. So Cameron Lenhardt, he's going to start. I'm not debating that, but he needs to take that step forward. He has the biggest shoes to fill with Ty Robinson no longer being with Nebraska. Going to the second guy, this is Justin Evans-Jenkins on that offensive line. I expect Justin Evans to be our new starting center next season with Ben Scott graduating. Ben Scott was another guy who really wasn't talked about throughout his Nebraska career as much as he deserved to be. Ben Scott was a cornerstone. He was a rock of that O-line. He was consistent. Okay, he didn't have the best season last year, but out of all the players on the O-line, he probably performed the best. He was good in the running game. We never had any bad snaps with Ben Scott. He was fairly consistent. He was a good signal caller of that offensive line. He was a leader, man. He was a very productive player. It is hard to replace a guy like Ben Scott. Thankfully, we have a guy by the name of Justin Evans-Jenkins, who has played a lot throughout his career with Nebraska. He's going into his 4th season. He's played since he was a redshirt freshman. Really, really productive guy. Very good in the pass pro. Now, he did struggle a lot in the running game last year. His Pro Football Focus grades reflect that. But he's a guy who does have experience playing center. He was our backup center, I believe, going into his second year and his third year. He's more so played guard last year, but I would prefer if we kicked him inside to play center. I think that's going to be his best position. And it's going to be best for this offensive line to have a veteran there rather than maybe a guy like Sam Sledge, who has played center as a backup, but he's never started a real game. So Justin Evans, man, he has some big shoes to fill. Probably needs to start at that center spot. That's my pick. No, it should not be Rocco Spindler. I know I'm going to get some comments on that. Rocco Spindler should be a guard. That's his best position. It's not even a question. He should be our right guard. So Justin Evans-Jenkins, second guy. want to get to the third guy, and this is going to be Kwinten Ives. Now, Kwinten Ives, for all intents and purposes as of right now, is going to be replacing Dante Dowdell as our new power back in this offense. Now, say what you want about Dante Dowdell. He was incredibly impressive with Nebraska. He was productive as well. Whether it was that Colorado game where he ran over Shiloh Sanders and broke his forearm, whether it was the Wisconsin game where he had 3 touchdowns, say what you want, but Dante Dowdell, for the most part, he was automatic inside the goal line. He was a great power back, and he still had a lot of room to improve. Now, of course, he transferred out. He went over to Kentucky. Kwinten Ives only has 6 carries in his entire career. But the coaching staff always hypes this dude up. They say how productive he is in practice, that he's going to, he's a bloomer. He's a late bloomer, but he's going to bloom. We need to finally see it on the field. It's time to see it. 6'3", 210 pounds. He's big. He's pretty shifty as well, but more than anything, you trust his ability to get in between the gaps and lower the shoulder. So we need to see him be our power back. I don't know how many reps he's going to get. He's definitely not going to trade carries with Edmond Johnson like Dante did last year, but we need him to get on the field, because if he can't get on the field this year, he's never going to. That starts in spring practice, but he has some big shoes to fill, because we just right now don't have a power back who we feel comfortable giving it to inside the goal line. We need that in this offense. Okay. Formerly, that was a Dedrick Mills. That was an Anthony Grant. That was a Gabe Irvin. That was a Dante Dowdell. We've had that in the past. We don't have that this year. So Kwinten Ives hopefully can be that guy. If he isn't, we're going to find a transfer. You guys already know how I feel about that. So Kwinten Ives, some big shoes to fill. We'll see if he's up to the task. I don't know. Number 4, Marques Buford. Who would he be replacing? This is Isaac Gifford. I believe Marques Buford needs to be our new starter at that rover position. Now, Marques Buford, I want to talk about him first. Rare combination of speed, size, the ability to play corner and play safety. He can tackle as well. He's perfect for the rover spot, man. He's perfect for it. Really, in my opinion, he needs to start there. Again, he's replacing Isaac Gifford. I was not high on Isaac Gifford throughout his career with Nebraska. I thought, going into last year, he was incredibly overrated. Let's call a spade a spade. He was overrated. I remember Evan Cooper said Isaac Gifford was going to be one of the best defensive players in the country. Like, that never turned out to be true. Gifford really struggled tackling. He was not good at man coverage throughout his entire career. Marques Buford, I think, could not only replace Isaac Gifford, I think he could be better. I think it could be a sizable improvement. So Marques Buford should be our rover starter, but again, he has some shoes to fill with that leadership presence that Isaac Gifford brought to the table. But I really like Marques Buford. He should be our new rover, again, with his combination of speed, size, athleticism, the ability to tackle, the ability to make plays in space. I believe he should be our new starter at rover. But he got some shoes to fill. He has to prove he's up for the task. So that's the 4th one. 5th one is Marques Watson-Trent as our new linebacker starter, more likely than not. He will be replacing John Bullock. Now, John Bullock had a great year with Nebraska, and it felt like John Bullock always made plays when they mattered the most. A lot of big 4th down stops where he got in between the gap to make a big tackle on the quarterback or the running back. John Bullock was a leader on this defense. Marques Watson-Trent, I think, could be a lot better than John Bullock. He was a lot better than John Bullock last year for Georgia Southern, of course, with the stats, 120 tackles, was first team, all conference, was the player of the year in his conference. I'm looking for him to be a leader more than anything, though, because we know how good he is on the field. We know he's productive. I'm looking for him to be a leader in that room. That's some big. It's a big shoe to fill, just in regards to John Bullock, man. He really commanded that linebacker room. He was the reason probably why Vincent Shavers was as good as he was, because he nurtured him, he developed him. We need to do that here with Marques Watson-Trent. He has some shoes to fill. Last one I want to talk about is a sneaky one. You're not going to hear a lot of people talk about this, and this is Luke Lindenmeyer. Luke Lindenmeyer will be replacing Nate Borkature as our blocking tight end. Okay, a blocking tight end is very important in this offense. With what we like to do, we usually like two tight end personnel sets. Okay, we have a blocking tight out there, to make plays in between the tackles, to run the ball horizontally, to just create space. Nate Borkature had a great year last year, and there's a reason he went over to Texas A&M in the transfer portal. Okay, he was one of the best blocking tight ends in the country. Luke Lindenmeyer, I think, could be better. I think he was really good last year. Like, I'm not expecting Luke Lindenmeyer to start for Nebraska. He's not, because he's not a threat catching the football. He's not speedy. He doesn't have great hands. He's not incredibly elusive. We're not asking him to do that, however. Okay, we're asking him to block. I think he could be a darn good block tight end. We've already seen that from him, but he needs to replace Nate Borkature at a high level, because It's so important for this running game, for this passing attack, to have a solid blocking tight end that can do just about everything. I think Luke Lindenmeyer can absolutely step up in his absence. And Luke Lindenmeyer had a great bowl game versus Boston College. So I feel good about his future, but he's going to be our blocking tight end. He has some big shoes to fill with Nate Porkature, who is honestly one of the more underrated players throughout his time at Nebraska. All right, guys. Those are the 6 players who have the biggest shoes to fill for Nebraska going into next season. Let me know your thoughts down below. Which player do you think needs to step up the most? Let me know in the comment section. Hey, if you made this far in the video, you know what to do. Hit that like button and subscribe as always, folks. Go Big Red, go Rhule. See you in the next one.